Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. Seeker.com reported world's largest single dish alien hunter is online. The Chinese 500-meter Aperture Spherical Radio Telescope, or FAST, is now taking data dwarfing the famous Arecibo, or Cibo, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, observatory in Puerto Rico. And it says here that the world's largest radio telescope began operating in southwestern China on Sunday, a project Beijing says will help humanity search for alien life. They spent 1.2 billion yuan, which is about $180 million, to build this telescope, and it's the size of 30 football fields, made up of 4,450 panels to search for signs of intelligent life up there. And this goes back to this idea of a Chinese space program in conjunction with the Russian space program, along with, of course, the US space program. And there's something to be said here about what I think is going to be a bigger issue than people realize as things develop, allegedly, up there. It's this concept of astropolitics. And I think it's possible that political powers that possess space weapons could be a major sign of the three beasts that we see in Daniel 7 as nations that eventually conglomerate or come together to form that fourth beast. And, a lot of people have speculated on who these are, and this is no different. I'm not saying that this is conclusive by any means. This has been just something on my radar and something I've kept an eye on because I find it interesting, all this space technology that they're building, and China being on the forefront of some of this technology. So it gets into this astropolitics idea where, regardless of who becomes president here, as I record this on the night of the first debate between Trump and Clinton, they might have to deal with, or at least negotiate in terms of keeping peace or not keeping peace based on space weapons and their abilities. And of course, this raises all kinds of other possibilities or speculations about how this could fulfill the false prophet in Revelation 13, having the ability to call fire down from heaven. Now, some believe this is purely a supernatural act, but in my opinion, as counterfeit signs and wonders, it's very possible. The whole idea of blue beam, similar in that thinking that high levels of technology will be the vehicle to create a massive illusion of supernaturalism of the gods, but in reality, it's just really high tech. It's this concept of technology being indistinguishable from magic, as Arthur C. Clarke suggested. So, if there is this ET angle to it, I think it has everything to do with the counterfeit signs and wonders. And so it's a really interesting story here. There's a lot of news coming out about space. There's the whole Europa thing. They think there's water vapor coming out of it. And obviously, if there's a rich water source in space, then, it potentially can house life or have life there. The public is definitely being set up for the announcement. It's a slow disclosure. It's the same way everything happens. It's not one big event. By the time that big event might happen, we would all be conditioned to accept it anyway. So it's not something that happens overnight. It's a gradual process, and that's what we've seen here. And I think seeing the big governments come out with this technology, we might see some really interesting things in the area of astropolitics. And obviously, I'm not leaving out the United Nations and their 2030 agenda. And I think the idea here is that the UN might just be one of those animals. It might not necessarily be the final beast, but one of the animals described that becomes part of the conglomerate beast in the end. So that's why, right now, perhaps the United States, if they go Hillary, we're going to fall right under that UN umbrella, point blank. If we go Trump, it'll slow it down a little bit. Eventually, it's probably going to go there anyway. But, that's where we're at here in 2016 with, the way politics are going. And I'm suggesting that with announcements like this from China, we're going to start seeing more and more astropolitics come into the limelight and determine national powers, but also perhaps a quote-unquote global effort to assist in the announcement of extraterrestrials or extra-dimensional beings or whatever the heck they're getting ready to quote-unquote announce. It's already happening. It's been happening. As a Christian, this is our worldview. Like, this has been going on for a really long time, and the big deception is that people believe it's all fake, it's all not real, that God doesn't exist, that prophecies are just babblings of crazy people. But everything that we see happening in the world points to the reality of the scriptures, that were written thousands of years ago. So I'm bringing these points up to give you guys an opportunity to process what you think it means, as this has become the world that we live in. Giant 500-meter sphere radio telescopes looking for alien life. And if you look here on Google Maps, it's in the Guizhou, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, Guizhou province of China. And this is how it looks, obviously completed, and the Google Maps is from an older date, so you can see that they were carving this out. And this is what's really interesting. When they were carving it out, they carved out a spiral. And I find that very fascinating. You know, all the talk that we've had about portals and the imagery they show in logos, it's everywhere if you really start looking at it. And it's always in association with an opening to the other side or entities that come through the other side. And that propaganda seems to be suggesting, with a story like this, a tie, a bridge to reality. Like, hey, this is not just entertainment. This is actually telling you, hey, this is the kind of crazy stuff that's going on, but we can't really come out and outright say it because the world will be a different place if that was the case, right? If all this was out in the open, but it's not. We live in an age of deceit. We live in an age when everything is upside down, where lies are believed to be truth, and the truth is revealed only in a way that the masses wouldn't accept as actual reality. So, hope it makes you guys think. Again, there's that scripture in Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 4, where it says, "Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord." And I'm starting to think that nesting among the stars, even ascending into heaven or climb up to heaven, as Amos 9:2 suggests, I'm starting to think that outer space, or the heavens that God says people will climb into or climb up to, where they will nest among the stars, the same place, the abode, the heavens above, where Nimrod tried to get to via the Tower of Babel before he brings him down. This heaven, or this above, and the extra dimension or alternate dimension is one in the same. And when we look at a story like this one and think about the imagery of the portal, it all starts to make sense. That there is a deep connection between the alternate universe, or the extra dimension, or the spiritual dimension, that other side, and what we've been led to believe is outer space. Maybe it's really just another dimension up there, and we do have access to it, but there are specific properties that we are not privy to yet. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts. Ponder on that for a little bit. And yes, this did remind me of 007. I mean, it's basically the same thing, except it's in China. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.